Yeah, I got to really be mindful. Like, I opened a bag of chips and I was like, I ripped it open with my mouth because I can't do this.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I should have disinfected or, and then I'm like, oh, like, I got, okay.
Uh-huh. What I really am curious about, by the way, Alejandro's been on the podcast a number of times. We've done a lot of video content together.
Yeah.
He has cool stories. That's why I invite him on so much. But you just got back, a month ago from Nepal.
Yeah, Nepal. I spent 2 weeks in Kathmandu, Nepal. I came back on March 14th.
That was kind of when this thing was starting to go down, wasn't it?
Well, I think in that area of the world, like, Nepal's not really that close to China, but there was some concern. I think globally there was a lot of concern, but in Nepal itself, people weren't overtly concerned at that time. I arrived in Nepal March 2nd with the time change. So I left late on the 29th. Yeah, March 2nd I arrived. And there really wasn't that much concern. They're pretty isolated, kind of from China, and they didn't have any documented cases at the time. India maybe had one or two, and there wasn't a lot of thought to the whole COVID thing. It rarely got brought up.
Really?
There was more talk about COVID in Europe and the United States, of course.
Well, see, and that's the thing. I thought we were on the tail end of things. I thought the rest of the world was ramping up, so it was not really a big concern, so to speak, at that point.
Not so much at that point, but I'll tell you what, things turned fast, and
they really did.
In the 2 weeks that I was there, especially the last week, things exponentially started to turn up, and the last 3 days I was getting a lot of questions about flying back into the United States, whether or not I was gonna.
Yeah, because some people were kind of stuck in other countries, weren't they? From what I understand,
4 or 5 days after I got back from America, most international flights got shut down. So, like on the 23rd of March, I think there were like 30,000 American citizens
abroad,
who couldn't get back into the country.
Ouch.
Yeah. And,
they're quarantining in foreign countries, right?
Well, yeah, they happened to be in Britain, and then the whole place got shut down. Like you couldn't get on an international flight.
Yeah.
And so I left on the 29th. I came back on March 14th. I think I left and came back at the right time.
Sounds like it.
Yeah, initially I was going out for a Buddhist retreat, which got canceled, but since I paid for everything, I figure I might as well go.
Yeah.
And I don't think I could have came back at a better time. I think if I spent another 3 or 4 days there, I probably wouldn't have been able to get back.
Really?
Yeah.
Scary.
Yeah, but unfortunately I didn't have to fly through Europe. I went from Kathmandu, Nepal to Dubai in the Arab Union.
Is that your first time in Dubai?
Yeah.
Did you get a little flavor, a little sense of what that Dubai is like, or were you? From the airport?
Well, the airport is like
taste.
A little taste. I had a 9-hour layover going there in Dubai, and then I had a 9-hour layover, 8 hours coming back. Right? I'll tell you what, man. I did a podcast about international galactic traveling, and I say that because I'm a sci-fi fan, right? But at the same time, being in Dubai was like being in another world. Because I've spent very little time in.
I want to go to Dubai.
Yeah, I do too. Like the Arab Middle East, the culture is so different. The language is different. How the script is totally different. Just everything. Everything is so different there. It was like being on another planet.
Was it?
Yeah, I was like, I couldn't believe some of the things people were wearing. I've never seen anything like that. And the food was like so different. And then the languages, I was like, oh, this is like, I did a podcast. I can't remember which one it was, but it was just about my perception of like what it'd be like to go to another world. Like everything is so new, everything is so different. Or basically I made the analogy of like 1,000 years ago when most people didn't travel, to actually like go to another country would be so. It'd be like going to another world.
It would be, yeah. Different culture, different people, different dress.
Everything totally different. So yeah, Dubai, I got a little taste. I'd like to go there.
I would too. I watch these travel travel videos, and it just looks like a fantastic.
Yeah, well, it's like it's the up and coming city of the 21st century, 22nd century. So,
is the airport near the city, or is it set out a ways from the city?
Oh, it's kind of set out a little bit. expensive.
Is it?
Yeah, so I didn't really get a chance to leave the city, and I showed up at like 11 o'clock at night. So my next flight was at 5 in the morning or something.
So you had to sleep just in the airport, or did you?
Basically, it was a little challenging.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
Interesting. So so the sense of being out and about traveling wasn't super crazy. It was just during the outbreak.
Well, getting there wasn't that. Getting to Dubai wasn't that big of a deal, even at that time. Getting to Kathmandu, Nepal, there was some concern, but not a lot. Like, some people asked me if I was worried about leaving on February 29th, but at that time, America, the United States, was still under the impression, just based on our governmental overtone, that it wasn't really that big of a deal or anything to really be that concerned about. Which, now that I look back after 6 weeks, it's probably not the smart thing,
right?
And right now we have more cases than anyone.
That's what I heard.
And we have a lot of people here, but we're just totally unprepared. So I didn't give it that much thought, but at the same time, I still got a mask. I had hand sanitizer, and it actually took me quite some time to find some alcohol wipes.
Did it?
Like, I spent more time in the last 3 days before I left, the 26th, 27th, and 28th of February, looking for alcohol wipes. I finally found 3 packs at a Rite Aid somewhere. The packs had 60 wipes each, which lasted me pretty good. Because airports are pretty dirty.
They're they've got a lot of people coming through.
Yeah, they have a lot of people moving around, so it's just more about wiping my area down before I sit, and then washing my hands before I eat.
Yeah, just taking those precautions. Were people wearing masks?
There were some people wearing masks. Oh, it was lower than I thought leaving, but quite a few coming back. Yeah, I'll tell you, the Nepalese airport, Nepal Airlines, coming back, nobody had a mask on. That worked on the plane.
Oh, nobody had a mask on?
That worked on the plane, but
Really?
There were a lot of passengers wearing masks.
Okay.
Yeah, and then in Dubai, coming back, there were a lot of masks.
That's where I saw you posted your picture on Instagram.
Yeah.
Taking your precautions.
Well, I looked around in Kathmandu. I looked around the airport, and I'm like, 70% of the people have masks on. And then when I got to Dubai, there were a lot of people wearing masks. And I actually saw a guy in a hazmat suit.
Did you really?
Yeah. Half had a hazmat suit. I took a small video of it.
What is a half hazmat suit?
It was like
head only?
No, it was more like shirt, head, goggles, mask, but no pants.
Okay.
Yeah, we have some hazmat suits at the government that are pretty, like, it's a full body suit without the face coverage, but it's not that thick. It's not like
thin paperish material.
Yeah. I mean, it would make a difference. It would have been nice to have a set.
I was gonna say, yeah.
I mean, I just wear it for fashion, look like one of the Beastie Boys in Intergalactic video,
Well, like we talked about earlier in the podcast we just did, this is going to be, I've already seen people having, certain prints or certain sayings or quotes on their mask. I mean, it's going to be a thing.
Yeah, and as I mentioned too when we were talking earlier, in other countries, masks are more fashion statements, So, like, certain cities in China are just really dirty. There are a lot of air
They've been wearing masks.
Yeah, they're just wearing masks because it's crusty out there. So yeah, they're more fashion based, right? But even Kathmandu, I was wearing a mask. I bought a couple masks, and it's funny because this guy that I got a little friendship with, my taxi driver, who at the Bodhi Guest House Hotel.
I love that Bodhi
Guest House, like Bodhi Dharma's guest house.
Do they have like paper and pens with that on there? Is that?
Yeah. This is the name of the place, the
awesome.
Bodhi Guest House. Yeah, and it's like a small family-run thing, and I hope they end up doing well, getting through all this, because Nepal is based a lot on tourism.
Yeah, I can imagine.
And so the taxi driver, he's like, "Oh, you're wearing a mask." I'm like, "Yeah, but it's not so much of a COVID thing." I was like, "It's dusty." And it's funny too. He's like, "Yeah, Kathmandu, we should call it Dustmandu, right?" And he's like, "It's dusty because our government's dusty." He's like, "I think our government's more dusty than our city." He was making.
I like that.
Yeah, he shared some stuff with me. He's like, "Look at the roads; they got potholes in them." And he's like, "Government officials," he's like, "they all make a lot of money." He's like, "But here we are, I work, 14 hours a day. I make almost nothing.
Mm-hmm. All right. Well, thanks for sharing your experience.
Sure.
I appreciate that. I'm glad you
Kathmandu
made
was
it back
cool.
safe.
Me too. Yeah, my mom is too.
You're back.
Yeah, I had a great time in Nepal, man. There was really Nepal. Like as a Buddhist, I had a great time, and just traveling. Coming back was much more difficult. And like I said, like Seattle, flying into Seattle on March 14th was a little scary. Out of all the places I was scared to land, Seattle was the one.
Was it?
Yeah, not leaving the airport in Kathmandu, not Dubai, but Seattle. Just because that was a hot spot for the virus at the time.
Yeah, but I want to ask you to clarify for people watching and also me again, where is Nepal? And what's the difference between Nepal and Tibet?
Well, basically they're two totally different countries. And like if you're looking at India, Nepal is in the kind of the upper right-hand corner of India, nestled against the Himalayan mountains, right? Very close to Bhutan. All these places people aren't that familiar with.
Yeah,
right?
We hear about them, but it'd be okay.
Yeah, and then there's the Himalayan mountainscape, which is like the largest mountainscape in the world. And then on the other side of that is Tibet.
Okay, so separated by this huge mountain.
Yeah, it's separated by the Himalayan mountains. Like physically, the features are somewhat similar, but they're very different cultures.
That's all.
And there's a lot of Buddhism there. Buddha was actually born in Nepal, but way in the past it was considered India. So it gets a little, some of that stuff gets a little bit weird. But if anything, I could say Nepal had more of a Indian overtone from India than actually from Tibet.
Okay.
But like Britain, they took over that whole area, right?
It's all influenced by that.
But not Nepal. Nepal never surrendered to India.
Oh, is that so?
Come to find out.
Or to Britain, I mean?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
To Britain, yeah. They tried really hard, but they
just couldn't.
They couldn't. Yeah,
that's impressive.
It is impressive. There's some interesting history there, It's funny because this girl was sharing the Nepalese history with me in Britain, and I was like, wow, I never knew that. She's like, how would you? You're an American. She's like, what do I know about American history? The Civil War,
Yeah.
And she's like, and I don't even know anything about that. But I was like, oh, that's fascinating. Yeah, but it's it's a fairly small country. It's very Buddhist, but it's mostly Hindu.
Is that so?
And then they have the Nuwari, which is like half Buddhist, half Hindu, which I can't quite understand. But I had a great time in Nepal.
Awesome.
Solo pilgrimage, my retreat got canceled, and I went anyway, much to my mom's chagrin. She was worried about me going.
I can imagine.
Yeah, I mean, there's some concern. But like you said, you can't just always live in fear.
You can't. You got to do your thing, especially like you said, you had that trip planned for a long period of time. I mean...
Well, and at the same time, too, I wouldn't travel right now.
No.
But 6 weeks ago I did. And I got back and I'm clean.
And,
so right now I need to sit for a while. And we'll see. So, yeah, I had a really good time. But, yeah, traveling right now is sketchy time.
It is.
I did a lot of hand washing. I did a lot of hand sanitizing. I bought sanitizer when I was there. It just, like, all the time.
Yeah.
And as a one-handed guy, I'm always putting stuff in my mouth. So I got a podcast.
Extra precaution. But you can do what you can do, and then you got to just kind of.
Yeah. You clean everything, and then you just go out and somebody sneezes, and you got coronavirus.
Yeah.